Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of our Achieving the Vision series. My name is Elsa Silva, and I'm the Multimedia Production Specialist at GIA, and I will be your facilitator today. So this episode is going to focus on key takeaways from some of the best presentations at Tortoise Vision. And here today I have with me Jimmy Grabow, who currently serves as the chair of counseling at Crafton Hills College, and Zachary Cortz, the student engagement specialist working in Crafton's Office of Student Life. So hello, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us out.
Always.
Yeah.
Here.
Before we start, can we do some quick introductions just to get to know you guys a little bit better?
Absolutely. Zach,
I could go ahead and go. Hi, my name is Zachary. I had been a completion coach at Crafton. Luckily, I got promoted to the position of student engagement specialist, but I'm happy to share about the guided pathways model we have at Crafton. And thank you again for having us out.
And good morning or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Jimmy Grabow. I'm the co-chair of counseling here at Crafton Hills College. And yes, Zach did get promoted. He's no longer a completion coach, but his expertise is very much warranted on this project. We're happy to be here and share with you our vision for our new counseling model, complete with completion coaches.
Beautiful. I can't wait to learn more about it. I would love for you to guide us through your presentation.
Absolutely.
Well, why don't we get into it, Jimmy? So today we have a presentation titled Empowering Student Success Through the Implementation of Completion Teams. And basically the intent behind it is to talk about the new counseling model we have at Crafton and how completion teams played a pivotal role in carrying it out. So today I'd like to begin with a quick reflection exercise. I want to ask you, the audience, A, what is your definition of student success? And 2, at home, identify the main challenges your organization faces in achieving student success.
Very good. And we always want to start our presentations off with really kind of engaging you, the audience, of really kind of figuring out, okay, how can this information be relevant to you, your organization, your educational institution? So really start thinking about, what does student success look like to you, whether you're an administrator, a counselor, an instructor, a community member, and what kind of barriers will lead to not achieving that, okay? So a little bit of background. Zach and I both work for Crafton Hills College. We're a part of the California Community College system. So there's 116 of us. We're the largest. Yes, we are the largest institution of education in the United States. Pre-pandemic, we had over 2.3 million students. We're getting up those numbers. If you're in California, you know about the community college system. Our big thing is about access and equity. Community colleges serve the community in 3 primary functions. First, we are obsessed with transfer, especially here at Crafton Hills College, helping students reach their 4-year destination. We also offer career and technical education programs, CTE programs for short. So community colleges offer anywhere from really cool mortuary sciences, if you're into dead people, fire tech, if you like that, EMS, and everything in between. We have it at your local community college, so check it out. And then we also help any student or any community member that can benefit from education. So those are the 3 main major services that community colleges offer. We're open enrollment, so anybody can apply. It's free. We have a lot of online and student support services, especially coming out of the pandemic. And like most institutions of higher education, our enrollment numbers are gradually rising coming out of the pandemic. So good times here. If you want to be a part of your community college, give Crafton Hills a call. Huh?
Definitely. So now I want to talk about the community colleges and the opportunities they offer and some of the challenges we face. So as Jimmy stated, community colleges are open to anybody. Anybody can sign up and they could actually leave at any time. And we have a ton of different programs and opportunities. So one thing that can happen is in some instances, we may not have enough guidance going to our students at any given time. It is pretty open-ended, so they could come to academic advising appointments as they need or as they want, but they don't actually have to go in at any given time. With all of the programs we have, the path to the end goal could be unclear. They might not know exactly what they need to graduate, the deadlines to apply for graduation, other things like that. And students' progress is not monitored. So like at a 4-year university, you might have to meet milestones, deadlines, have some satisfactory academic progress, and it can be tough to monitor that for every student we have at the moment. So Jimmy and the counseling team wanted to come up with a new model of academic advising and guiding students to make sure that at any given time they're making progress toward their degree and or certificate completion. So that's kind of what we want to get into today and talk about the implementation and everything that went into that. So Crafton, we are a fantastic campus. We do serve the Redlands and Ukaipa community. We are actually recognized as an equity champion by the state. And in addition to that, our Crafton students are leaders in transfer admission to Cal State, universities, UCs, private institutions, etc. And at the moment, we have 7,963 students enrolled. 67% are part-time, and 65% of students at Crafton qualify for the California Promise Grant, which aids them in tuition, living expenses, book spending, and whatnot.
Awesome. So coming out of the pandemic was a very interesting time for everybody, but especially for little Crafton Hills College. But it really gave us an opportunity to grow as an institution. But before we could grow, we really wanted to focus down on who our students were. How could we better serve them? We weren't doom and gloom. We were, okay, cool. We're coming back. How do we welcome students to our campus? How do we make sure that they know they have a home here? How do they make sure they know they have services here? And as we were researching, like most institutions, we had to hold a mirror to ourselves and look at the good things we were doing and the things that we could be doing better. And what we were really finding is we had a lot of students that had high units. And these were great students, 3.0 students that had 70, 80, 90 units. And just to give you some context, usually a bachelor's degree is 120 semester units. So if you have 70, 80, 90 units at your community college, like, you think you're almost done, but you still got to transfer to get that bachelor's degree. Why aren't these students transferring, right? We were seeing that we had a lot of potential for misadvising. We would develop an ed plan for a student, and then they wouldn't see us for 2 years. Well, curriculum changes here in California very quickly. So what we advised 2 years ago might now be not accurate. So how do we make sure students are getting up-to-date information? Also, like Zach said, an unclear path to success. Well, a lot of students come, they're first-generation students. Crafton is an HSI, as Zach had mentioned. So we deal a lot with students unsure of what the next step is, unsure that they even need to apply to graduate, unsure of what it is that we need to transfer. Okay. And last but certainly not least, even though Crafton is a champion, we have some of the best transfer percentages in the state, we're still finding students having a lot of difficulty navigating the transfer process, whether that's when do I apply to transfer / how do I even fill out transfer applications to where do I even want to go for transfer, even though the Inland Empire has some amazing four-year institutions right down our street that they can attend. So there was a lot of things that we were doing well, but we really figured were these 4 big items that we really needed to do something about. And so what we really started drafting as a community college, especially in counseling, was we took a guided pathways approach. And that's been like the bazing word in higher education for the past, 5-7 years. What's guided pathways? And when it first came out, you asked, what's guided pathways? It was like, I don't know. But for Crafton, especially for counseling and transfer, what we use guided pathways for is really looking at where are we losing students along the journey? Is it when they first see us? Is it when they leave? Like, where are we losing students? So we looked at our traditional counseling model, and like all 116 campuses, we have a very, very reactive counseling model. We expect our students to come to us. How do we meet students where they are if, they have to call us, meet us online, whatever that may be? So how do we flip the script? How do we meet students where they're at? Okay, that was our big, how do we solve this? Okay, and again, coming out of the pandemic, this gave us extra opportunities to utilize technology, utilize additional funds from COVID, but also, again, do that research. Because again, what works for Crafton might not necessarily work for San Bernardino Valley College or Riverside Community College. And again, that's the beauty of a community college, right? There's 116 of us, each with our own demographic area that we specifically serve. But our big mission and the why behind this was, how do we move from reactive counseling for students coming to us when they think they need us to a more proactive approach to counseling where we are going out to students to say, hey, you're very getting close to transfer. Did you know that? Or, we noticed that you might be struggling in math and you are a STEM major. What kind of resources can we provide to you to really make sure you're going to be successful, not only in your classes, but also when you go home at night? So again, it was very much, okay, we want students coming to us, but we also need to get out there to serve students. What we started tinkering around with was this idea of a completion team. And we won't be able to go into all of it because we're really focusing on completion coaches, and we'll get really deep into that. But what we decided was, in community colleges, unit totals become kind of the barometer for success. It lets you know when students can transfer. It lets you know when they're ineligible for financial aid. It lets you know a lot of things. So we took unit milestones and came up with benchmarks that we felt students should be meeting, whether that's a 0 to 14. Do you have a major declared? If not, how can we get you looped in with our Career Center? At 30 to 44, did you do your minimum transfer requirements for Cal State UC? If not, let's come in. Let's do a grad check. Let's do an application workshop. So the counseling team, along with our Transfer and Career Center, were very intentional about making benchmarks on how do we make students aware of the things that they needed to be aware of to be successful at a community college. We also looped in our classified support staff to triage calls and student appointments better as well. So if we have students that are unsure about a major, all right, instead of seeing a counselor, let's go ahead and see if we have a I declare a major workshop, or if there's a career counselor that specializes in declaring a major available to you. Again, not reinventing the wheel, but packaging it a lot different. So the big thing was, as we were developing all these great tools, all these great things that we wanted to do, it came to the conclusion of, well, how do we actually reach out to students? Because if we send out mass emails, that's not that effective. If we send out mass text, cool, we might get them for a little bit, but who speaks student lingo? Like, I'm old, like I TikTok this, TikTok that, like I was old dial up back in the day. So we were really missing a very, very key component that we had a big need for. And that is when actually our Dean of Student Services, Dr. Ivan Pena, kind of reached out to GIA and was like, hey, we have a proposal. We're looking for student experts, actually, let's say subject matter experts, to really help us initiate and get this completion team model off the ground. It's something that hasn't been done, at least to our knowledge, at a community college. And what this started looking like is, yes, we need additional people to help do this, not necessarily counselors and classified staff, but somebody that could provide a bridge to students, to the campus, somebody who students can relate to, people that understand the way students think. Because like I said, I'm an old man, right? This is just for men. So we came up with the idea of hiring completion coaches, and we came up with a lot of good terms, whether we call them completion coaches or really awesome people at Crafton. We stuck with completion coaches because that sounds awesome. And what we did is we were really intentional with how we marketed this position, especially. We reached out to several faculty, administrators, and staff, and we're like, we want students who have graduated from Crafton in multiple programs, from honors to CTE to transfer, to students who came in during the pandemic. And we want these students that had, it doesn't have to be this great like Crafton, I got tattooed on my forehead, but just had a good experience at Crafton, who understand Crafton, who've navigated this process successfully, to really bring them in and, help us help students, right? We had a huge campaign. We had over 55 applicants. We went through a very rigorous hiring process. They had group interviews to see how they interact with each other. We had solo interviews, and we were actually whittled it down to 4. It was dog eat dog, man. It was crazy. We had people going at each other's throats because it was a panel interview. It was crazy. Good people, right? We came up with 4 completion coaches, and you'll notice that each one of them specializes in a different unit cohort to match the milestones that students should be hitting. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our former completion coach, but still a member of the Crafton family, full-time now, Zach.
Thank you, Jimmy. And as he stated, each completion coach had a cohort of students based on the amount of units completed. I did take care of students with 0 to 14 units, mainly freshmen who were incoming, and I would kind of talk to them about their academic pathway, what they wanted to do, whether they would be going into a CTE program. And so did my colleague Alexis, who took care of students with 15 to 29 units. And by that time, they were coming up on the end of year 1, thinking about what they want to do after Crafton, whether it be transferring to a university, completing their certificate, etc. After that, we had my colleague Lauren, who took care of students with 30 to 44 units, really thinking about applying to universities, getting their resume down, finding out exactly where they want to apply to. and my colleague Lorenzo would aid them in their completing their time at Crafton, between 14 and 60 units, talking about financial aid at the university they want to go to, and really finishing off the time at Crafton in strong fashion. Like Jimmy said, we do know a lot about the Crafton community, what it takes to graduate, transfer out, etc. And that comes down to what we knew, or what I know as a completion coach. So number one, campus culture. Number two, requisites to success. What do you have to graduate? What do you have to move on to a university? Um, Certificate and career info. I actually at Crafton got my EMT certificate, so I am a licensed emergency medical technician in addition to working in education, which is kind of fun. We knew a lot about the CCC matriculation process, what units transfer, the different academic pathways. In addition to that, support services and how to navigate life on campus at a college or university. I will be getting into that in a moment, talk about basic needs. The positive impact of caring staff. Every completion coach at Crafton was positively impacted by a staff member like Jimmy. I do remember when I was a student in 2019, I was feeling a bit low about my academic performance in one given semester. And luckily, I came into counseling and I happened to meet with Jimmy Grabow, who gave me a second lease on my academic life at that moment and aided me in persisting through. And lastly, the we have the dedicated webpage and email for contact. So if you scan that QR code in the bottom of the screen, you could see our completion coach webpage. It'll have a way to contact every coach and find out more about what we do. But without further ado, I'd like to get into the very specific duties of the completion coach. Number one, transfer assistance. So as Jimmy stated, and I think I reiterated, the completion coaches are divided up by unit count. Students with between 30 and 60 units are going to be thinking about graduating and moving on to a university. And with that, we have a comprehensive transfer workshop series. We talk about everything from applying to what to do after you hear back, if you got in, if you didn't get in, etc. We provide individual assistance with in-state, out-of-state, and private university applications. And we give them next steps, transition preparation, advice, and we kind of talk to them about what can happen when you move on to a university. It can be overwhelming, it can be kind of shocking. So we did give one-on-one feedback and advice and testimonies about how life is at a university, how it differs from Crafton, and how to adapt. In addition to that, basic needs. A lot of students, are having a tough time maybe at home. They might be facing food insecurity, etc., maybe having a tough time with transportation. A big thing that the completion coaches at Crafton do are refer students to the basic needs office. We meet with at-risk students on a day-to-day basis to gauge reasons for academic difficulty, and we provide solutions. So we talk to them about the Omnitrans bus pass free to every student, the clothing closet we have on campus, and the food pantry. And in addition to that, registration aid is huge. So whenever a student comes to Crafton and they are new, it can be kind of daunting to sign up for classes. When they meet with a counseling faculty member like Jimmy, they do have a student education plan. But after you have that made, you have to know how to sign up for classes, when to come in, the different sections to take, etc. So we would actually book ourselves with one-on-one appointments with students to have comprehensive registration aid assistance. And that would happen typically after a counseling session for a comprehensive and or abbreviated education plan. And after these appointments, we would direct students to auxiliary services on campus, be it financial aid, admissions and records, etc. Because let's say a student is signing up for classes and then they find out they have an outstanding balance on their financial aid, then we would direct them to the department that they need to go to take care of it and get them squared away that day so they have a smooth academic experience at Crafton. And ambassadorship. So at Crafton, we are, as completion coaches, pretty close in age to the general student body. So maybe even younger. So we would attend campus outreach events for K-12 students and youth organizations, whether it be Boy Scouts, a STEM-related K-12 club. We would lead guided tours of Crafton and give testimonies about our time at Crafton and the positive impact it had on us. In addition to that, we would facilitate outreach efforts and in-reach efforts aimed at building rapport between students, staff, and faculty. So basically, as completion coaches, we want to be the bridge between the professors, counseling, admin, and the students. We're kind of like an in-between to bridge that gap in contact and familiarity that can sometimes exist. And another thing, faculty support, early alert management. At Crafton, anytime a student might be having a tough time academically, the faculty or individual instructing their class can raise a flag notifying counseling and other academic support members of an issue. And basically, as completion coaches, we would follow up with them on a daily or weekly basis, find out what the issue is and attempt to fix it, whether it be food insecurity causing the issue, an issue with transportation, etc. So we would follow up with the students who had a early alert flag raised, and in the event that we could fix the issue, we would lower the flag, and that would aid in building the connection between faculty and counseling and showing that we're on top of the concerns they raise about students and showing that we're getting the learners everything they need to succeed. And so we have the impact of the completion team model broken down now. We have one section on data and metrics. It's going to basically show the quantitative data behind everything we've talked about today. And then we have success stories and case studies talking about the actual impact of the completion team model on a student that we have at Crafton at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. What Zach didn't mention is the completion coaches really became quite invaluable to the campus community. We had to kind of, I don't want to say like beat off other departments. It was like, hey, like Zach can't necessarily be Riker, our class mascot, all the time. He's got other things he needs to do. So they've integrated really well. I would hope that they feel like they are very much a part of the campus culture and community because we rely on them for a lot of expertise. And obviously, as you saw from Zach's section, a lot of it is that direct student contact, not only for counseling, but basic needs, raising a flag for faculty. Beforehand, we didn't necessarily have that type of approach at Crafton. It was very difficult. Everybody's kind of strapped on cash for positions. But like I said, our completion coaches really filled in that role. But how do we know it's successful? That's always the good one. Are we just chalking up, tallying up, oh, we saw this many students? Yes, that is nice. But what are our services, our completion models, how do we know it's successful? Well, we're in our infant stages of it, but so far it's showing off really good. One of the big things that we're always trying to push, and Zach will know this because my co-chair and I really push the completion coaches to have them make sure that students have a completed counselor-approved student educational plan. We just got through saying the community college and the transfer process can be a very convoluted and difficult process, even for seasoned professionals to figure out sometimes. How can we expect our students? For those of you who don't know, an educational plan is basically a roadmap of classes that students should take in order to reach X, Y, and Z, whether that's to get their degree, to transfer, to get our bachelor's degree, which hint, hint, or plug, shameless plug, Crafton now offers a bachelor's degree in respiratory care. Our first cohort's going through this semester. So if you know people that want to really help people breathe better, send them to Crafton. Shameless plug over. But what we really found out and how we measure success at Crafton in the counseling center is persistence and retention. And if students have an ed plan on file, as you can see from our preliminary data from spring of 2023, students that do have an ed plan on file are more likely to either persist and graduate or register for the next semester of classes. 79%, almost 80% of students who see a counselor for that completed ed plan move on to their next semester or have graduated with their certificate or their degree. Again, we want to see these students as opposed to the 20% who didn't participate, moved on. So again, huge discrepancy in numbers, and that's why we're having our completion coaches. Hey, ed plan, update it. Hey, ed plan, you don't have one. Hey, educational plan, like we noticed you changed your major. Come on and see us right away. The second one is basically active students kind of show from October to May. Again, numbers are rising, largely because our completion coaches are making those impacts and really contacting our students. We've only been doing this for not even a full academic year. So we're already starting to see those types of fruits of our labor when it comes to student contact. That's very meaningful. We're about 80% of our student population that's current and active has a completed counselor-approved ed plan, which is huge. And if we can showcase that kind of success and how the staying power and power that is for students, the better off it's going to be. Again, these students are being engaged. This is some just data from the past 2 years of students that have been directly contacted and worked with by our completion coaches one-on-one. And we broke it down with SEP. Again, we're doing our unit numbers, academic success, also known as our probation, some of our most at-risk students. How do we make sure we're serving them? And of course, our undecided students. And research shows that college students who are unclear, undecided about a major have a higher chance of dropping or stopping out of their college career. So we really want to prioritize those students. Students who didn't have an ed plan, students that are on academic success standing, also known as probation, and then students who are undeclared. We really thought that these were kind of low-hanging fruit to start this with, because we know these students need to see a counselor anyways. The numbers there represent 522 students that were personally contacted by our completion coaches, as in not just text or emailed, but phone called or followed up with, to get them in to do an ed plan, to get them in to do a graduation check. Because again, a lot of students had way more units than they needed in order to graduate. Nobody told them they needed to graduate or apply to graduate. Again, one of the double-edged swords about being a community college. For students that are on probation, over 888 student contacts for our students on academic standing, making sure that, yes, we're here to support you in your academic endeavors. Yes, we know that a lot of issues outside the classroom might prevent you from being successful. How can Crafton help you reach your academic and career goals? That's what we're reaching out for. And then obviously our undecided students or undeclared students. Well, we found in many of these students, Crafton is a small community college, so we don't have certain majors, so students didn't know what to pick. Well, you don't have criminal justice, but we have the prereqs necessary to transfer to Cal State San Bernardino as a criminal justice major. So again, explaining that to students, explaining that, raising the college capital of students is what we're really trying to do with these outreach events. And again, these students, we would have never been able to contact and provide the level of service without our completion coaches. And that's well over 1,000 in person or on the phone, talking with these students, explaining to them why they need to utilize X, Y, and Z resources, hearing the student's story and figuring out how we can best serve those students. And again, that was all the work of the completion coaches. And it's really that student service focus. Remember, the purpose of this is to meet students where they're at, not where we're at as an institution, but where that student's at. And these were just a few of the numbers that we really wanted to hammer down on to make sure students were being supported. Zach really helped out Myra, and I'll let Zach kind of talk to the audience about Myra, who is, you know, an adult reentry student who, I'm giving too much information, but I like making it really nice. Myra went through Redlands Adult School, one of our partnerships, and came to Crafton very, very having the imposter syndrome, like many of our students do. This was like, I don't know about transfer. And I'll let Zach take it away, because it was the work of our completion coaches of the team that really turned this into a very nice success story.
Yeah, definitely. So Myra, her quote is, the application process to transfer was confusing to me, and I needed to figure out where to start. Thankfully, I found the completion coaches who helped me with the process. My experience with the completion coaches was terrific. I signed up for their workshops, and they helped me fill out my UC and CSU applications. They were always available when I have questions regarding transferring or reviewing my application before submitting it. I needed guidance on what university to transfer to, and the completion coaches encouraged me to attend the university field trips. Attending the field trips helped me decide to transfer to UC Riverside. Myra, I did want to mention Myra is awesome, and she did attend all of the workshops that I did mention, the comprehensive transfer workshop series. And she is a great success story at Crafton, and we were so happy as a team to aid Myra in completing her time at Crafton.
Absolutely. And it's awesome because Myra has now wants to be a community college counselor. So, you know, we train them young. We start them young. Just like Zach wants to work in the community college, got his dream. So all good things. We like to not necessarily air our dirty laundry, but we want to be honest and upfront with some of the challenges, but we'll call them opportunities, here at Crafton that we ran into when it came to implementing the completion coach model or completion model, but specifically when it came to completion coaches. This all started when we got a brand new dean, and again, it's Dean Ivan Pena. And I remember Mariana Macame, our transfer center director, and I being the chair of counseling, like on day 2, we're like, hey, nice to meet you, but we got this great idea. We know you don't know what's going on, but here's our new completion coach model. What do you think? Dr. Pena and all his wisdom was like, yeah, how do we make it work? So what he would say from an administrator's perspective was securing funding for brand new positions. In which case, like I said, Mariana also exposed them to GIA, and we wrote a proposal with GIA and with the Kresge Foundation, got 2 years of funding for our completion coaches when we started out. So without that type of funding, without an administrator that had our backs and said, we'll find some funding for this because we think it's a good idea, that was a huge undertaking. And big shout out to Dean Pena on that one, because love you, brother. Couldn't have done it without you. From a counselor perspective, also from an administrator's perspective, where are we going to put these individuals? Our second floor at Crafton's already kind of crunchy. It's a newer building, but we are bursting at the seams. We have timeshares now. So facilities, where we're going to put these individuals, what kind of access are they going to have? Because they are not student workers. These are area subject experts. So again, they're kind of like the day walkers, you know, they're not students, but they are undergrad and grad students, but they're not full-fledged employees with all counselor access. So from a counselor perspective is, how do we train? How do we supervise? How do we make sure we don't blur the lines between counseling and not counseling? How do we make sure the union isn't breaching contract or anything like that? So again, there were some difficulties. Everyone in the campuses and districts who are interested in doing this, check with your HR, check with your leadership, because it can and absolutely will happen. And probably one of the biggest ones that we didn't think would really be that big of a deal is tech and software integration. How do we track students? How do we give access to our completion coaches? How do we make sure we're not duplicating our efforts? So that actually was one of the things we didn't think about. We thought, oh yeah, our IT department is awesome. Like they'll figure it, no problem. Yeah, wrong. We had to really get creative, but thankfully, because we do have an awesome IT department, we were actually able to come up with unique and creative ways where we can track students very easily. And that's even getting better. And it's getting a lot of, what's counseling doing to check DEI student populations? What's counseling doing to check students who are on academic standing? Largely because we're starting to tackle this stuff 2 years ago coming out of the pandemic. What this looks like from a user standpoint is things like this. This is a picture of our Starfish, which is our degree planning and early alert system that Zach was talking about. Now we can run reports and filter out by unit completion for students. So if we need students to come see us because they're undeclared and they're 0 to 14, great, we can filter that out, get their contact information, and hit the ground running, which is really nice. Another thing that Zach and I also forgot is we also like to award students and help educate students why units are so important, because you can start applying to transfer at 30 units as opposed to completing 60. So one of the completion coaches, I forget who, came up with the glorious idea of getting them pens to signify and honor their progress. So this is a 15 unit, we have a 30 unit, and we have a 45 unit, because at 60, like, you get the letter of acceptance from university, or you get the diploma, or you get both, right? This is one of the things we hand out to students. We got bronze, silver, and gold. And it's just a nice way to symbolize, hey, we have a gift for you. Stop by counseling so we can honor your accomplishments. Hey, you're at 15 units. Congratulations. Have you started thinking about where you might want to transfer to? Or, hey, we know you're taking some business classes. You're already at 30 units. Are you a business major? Because we don't see anything declared on your profile. So again, really kind of hitting those milestones and really utilizing our completion coaches to spread that good news. They get an email from a completion coach. They get a phone call. They're like, oh, happy days. They get an email from me like, oh, man, did I mess up? Like, no, I'm cool too. Like, talk to Zach. We'll get you hooked up. So this is one of the ways we were actually able to chunk our cohorts, which wasn't here before we started, which makes tracking students a lot easier. Other ways we started doing this is our STARS grid, which is our those of you that have STARS, I call it Zeus because it tells us where we're going throughout the day and who we're meeting with. But we were able to add on new reason codes. You can see 30 to 44, the students looking for a CSU app review because they're getting ready to transfer. So we can actually start focusing students into A, their completion coach, or B, counselors that specialize in 30 plus or 0 to 29 units. Our counselors, and again, this would be more about if you want to learn about the entire completion model, our counselors are specialized in different unit milestones. So for example, I'm a 30 plus counselor. So my specialization is that transfer process, applications, what to do if you're denied, high unit majors, all that kind of fun stuff. And I get to work with Lauren and not Zach, because he's 0 to 15,
Lorenzo.
but Lauren and Lorenzo with the 30 plus group coming up with ideas, programs, outreach efforts. So we have these nice completion team models based on units. And again, finding out how we're going to contact students and divide students was a little challenging, but we got it worked. So if we can do it, you can do it. And last, but certainly not least, our data dashboard, which is the thing we're most excited about, because our research team is awesome. And because we were bombarding them with so many requests, they're just like, hey, you guys want us to build a data dashboard for you? Like, fantastic. That way we can run all our own reports. And not only will our reports have to do with unit completion milestones or academic standing, but we're going deeper and actually going off of ethnicity. So when we want to do prescriptive outreach to our Black or Latino student populations, we'll really be able to drill down on them of, okay, cool. We're going to outreach to our Black student populations. We're having an HBCU event in Los Angeles in March. So we need to get the word out. Oh, and while we're at it, like those that are near completion, we need to make sure their ed plan's up to date. We need to have a huge calling campaign, get them in to see us because we want to get there before they absolutely need us and we don't have any counselors available. So the new data dashboard is really going to be able to see it. You can actually see disaggregating ethnicity, full-time load versus part-time, how many units they've completed, transferable or CTE. We're really excited about this. Hopefully we'll be able to share it to you this year, maybe in spring. Hey, so you can actually see how we're using this in order to really be proactive, build that community, and get our completion coaches involved. Because again, now we have a lot of tools in place, and this is going to kind of be the sprinkles on top of the ice cream or donut, whatever your fancy is. Because like I said, this is really going to help us as a counseling, transfer, and career center really optimize our services. And again, meet the students where they're at. So it's a beautiful thing coming. Cool. Take it away, Zach.
Thank you, Jimmy. So now we want to give you kind of a step-by-step on implementing the model of completion teams. So number one, define the opportunity. Like Jimmy mentioned, for us, it was the COVID-19 pandemic. We kind of saw it as a way to reset and an opportunity to totally revamp the system we had at the time. Next, gather data and measurements, see how it's going to logistically carry out. Collaborate with key stakeholders, whether it be the VP of Student Services, the Dean of Student Services, Ivan Pena. He's fantastic. We love him. Moving on, understanding your environment and culture, thinking about how making a shift like that could impact your team and the dynamic within the office. In addition to that, you want to go ahead and identify resources and support who could assist you in carrying out a initiative. For us, it was GIA. Thank you, GIA. You guys are fantastic. And then you want to develop a timeline. So for us, I think we began thinking about the completion team model in 2021, and by the end of 2022, we were up and moving with it. I think all of the completion coaches got hired in September 2022, so it was about a 1.5 year timeline to carry out the beginning of the completion teams. And in the end, put your plan into action. Once you've done all of the above steps, you should have everything you need to get going, and then make it happen.
Yeah, and it does take some time. It was a very trying process trying to get all this to work, because as far as we know, we don't know of any other community colleges operating a completion system like this. And again, this was our take on guided pathways, which is really kind of figuring out where Crafton was losing students, where we could better serve students, and really kind of making meaningful interventions to help that, get students on the path, stay on the path, and get off the path to a better career or educational institution. It's been a great journey thus far, and it's still going. Just recently, I think like 2 weeks ago, we got our transfer data for UCs. And this is where, we know we're making an impact, because Crafton Hills College has the highest admit rate in the region. And Region 9 includes Inland, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. But more importantly, we're transferring our Latinx students and our Black students at levels higher or on par with our white students. So again, we're really kind of digging into that DEI group. So we're looking at information provided from the RP group, from GIA, and we're trying to be very strategic, because we are a smaller community college. As Zach mentioned, we're about 6,500 students on average. So like, we have to be very creative with our resources. We have to be creative with our time, but with this new model, and especially with our completion coaches, we really feel we're onto something, because we are seeing higher transfer numbers, having more student success, and actually seeing students more regularly. So for example, if we come back and you guys can hear the whole completion model, what we're focusing on the month of February, because it's a little downtime, is high school outreach. We're reaching out to students that don't have a declared major, and then we're also reaching out to students who are 5 or less units away from graduating to see if they've applied for graduation, applied for transfer, or if they're missing 1-2 classes, to see like how we're going to get this done. The month of February is traditionally a little less students, so this is our time to go out there and really start putting our completion coach model in practice. So it's very good. We'll see how that happens. And again, we'll have lots of data as we continue on, because we really want to make sure this works. And yes, take advantage of it. Come see us again. But I don't have anything else. Zach, do you have any other parting words of advice?
I think that the completion team model is fantastic. Like Jimmy said, by having the students meet with somebody like the completion coaches, it did aid them in kind of feeling more comfortable coming into counseling and getting the aid they needed. And as for me, as a graduate student looking to get into student affairs, I think being a completion coach was a fantastic way to get a taste for working in higher education, and it did impact me greatly. So I want to thank GIA for giving Crafton the opportunity to hire all of the coaches. And yeah, that would be it for me.
Yeah, Zach's being super modest. Like I said, he just got his full-time job. He's been at it for 2 weeks now. We're really proud of him. We're really sad to lose him as a completion coach. But now, like he says, like, I'm full-time. And so it's like, yes, you are. So he's a huge success story. And again, that's the also nice thing about the completion coaches. Like, it gives students an opportunity, a chance to see what it's like to work in higher ed. I think everybody who grew up knew they wanted to be a community college counselor, work in a community college, right? I mean, not really. It was the positive interactions that they've had at a community college. So again, thank you to Zach. Thank you to all our completion coaches, because without them, like, our jobs would be a lot more difficult, and we wouldn't be doing as good of a job serving students when it comes down to it. So, and our communities. So thank you again for being here. Get in contact with us. Again, Zachary Cortz, Jimmy Grabow. We're here at Crafton Hills College. GIA has our contact information. If we could be of service to anybody watching, please let us know. Alyssa, I give it back to you.
Thank you guys so much for a wonderful presentation. Can I just say that really spoke to me, because as a student, I graduated in 2020, and I didn't realize how flawed the system was, like you guys were talking about, especially like when I was in there. I didn't see a counselor as often as I should have. And I love that you guys are implementing that the counselors need to come to the students now, because if it's the other way around, they really won't do it, or they forget to do it, like things come up. And so it's really helpful to students to have that implemented. And especially when I was a student, I didn't realize actually that I was going to graduate the year that I was going to graduate. I thought I still had a whole other year. And then I went in to go see my counselor, and she's like, yeah, you can graduate next month. And I'm like, huh? So the system is totally flawed, but thank you for your work, because it's gonna change a lot of students' lives for the better.
Well, congratulations for navigating the system. I think pre-pandemic, like, of the millions of students that wanted to transfer from a community college after 6 years of continuous enrollment, only 30% did.
Yeah.
So navigating our beautiful community college system, which is very powerful, can take some work. And like I said, at Crafton, we found a way that hopefully works. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to the drawing board. But congratulations on your success, because like, you're a very, very uncommon, as you know from the stats, but also you didn't know you were supposed to graduate.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to tell you, But now, if you fast forward, come to Crafton, you might get a call from Lorenzo or Lauren being, hey, Alyssa, you're at 45. Have you filed to graduate? Are you transferring? Do you know what transfer? Let's talk. And that's the whole purpose of it, is really kind of bringing up that transfer capital for our students and community.
Beautiful. And I'm excited to see where it goes in the future.
Invite us back. We'll have updates next year.
Oh, we will.
In fall. We'll have updates for GIA in fall.
I can't wait to hear them. If you'd like more information on Crafton Hills, the completion teams, we have a QR code that you can scan that'll take you directly to their website, or you could visit the GIA website as well for more information. But I want to thank you guys once again for hopping on and discussing this with us. It was truly a pleasure.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.